Edgar Markov is one of the most popular commanders of the last 10 years, and he's getting his first readily available reprint ever in the upcoming Innistrad Remastered. That means a lot of folks are going to be in the mood to make vampire decks with the uncontested strongest vampire commander ever at the helm. But with so much having changed in Magic between Edgar's official release in Commander 2017 and now, what does it even look like to build an Edgar deck? Let's take a look at the definitive Edgar Markov deck together. First, let's break down the daddy of all vampires here. Edgar is a 6-mana Mardu 4/4 vampire knight with hands down the most broken ability ever printed, Eminence. Eminence means your commander does the bulk of the work just sitting in the command zone. In this case, whenever you cast a vampire spell, you create a 1/1 black vampire token. If you do actually cast Edgar, he's got haste and first strike, and whenever he attacks, you put a +1/+1 counter on each other vampire you control. But do you ever really want to cast Edgar? Only if you're alpha striking for the win. He's not a commander that's going to be on the battlefield for very long otherwise. At 6 mana, he's at the top of your curve anyway, and recasting him is a massive 8 mana. No, Edgar does the heavy lifting before he ever sees the battlefield, just like the majority of the other Eminence commanders. Which means creatures are an important part of the deck's DNA. The goal is going to be to go wide and win with combat, with backup victory conditions of combo. But let's take a look at the creatures first. One of the biggest mistakes I see from Edgar decks is going too heavy on the creatures. You don't need 50 vampires in your deck to carry you to victory here. In fact, about 30 is the sweet spot. This is because you want to balance quantity and quality of your vampires. Yes, each vampire spell is 2 bodies, but that's not justification enough for including very poor quality creatures in your list. Let's instead pick and choose the best utility and the best efficiency for our vampires, prioritizing vampires that buff our other creatures. Legion Lieutenant, Captivating Vampire, and Stromkirk Captain are all prime examples of this. Bodies that make more bodies and make each vampire a little bit better. Even Edgar's alter ego, Edgar Charmed Groom, fits this bill. He's an undying vampire lord, and even if he's not as good as our commander version, he's good for what we want him to do. Markov Baron is another vampire lord that can potentially be cast just by tapping our other vampires, and with madness, could even be cast on another player's turn too. Pretty decent utility. Cordial Vampire can be considered another Lord-type creature too, putting a +1/+1 counter on each other vampire you control whenever another creature dies. That can get out of control fast if you go wide enough and can control when your own creatures die. That's where vampire sacrifice outlets like Viscera Seer, Bartolome, and Yeheni come in. Sacrificing a single vampire token is much more beneficial to a wide enough board than just another body. That's what I mean by a balance of quantity and quality. What good is just another 1/1 when you could be giving 5 other vampires a +1/+1 counter? And counters are kind of a secondary theme here too, with Rakish Heir and Vampire Socialite, as well as, in extreme circumstances, Edgar himself putting counters on your vampire. Indulgent Aristocrat and Patron of the Vein, too, can pump all your vampires with counters, making sure that you're able to go tall along with going wide. Best of both worlds. Which is why a creature like Dusk Legion Duelist is valuable here. An incidental +1/+1 counter on him on anyone's turn is an extra card drawn, and card draw on a creature in a deck like this is extremely valuable. Making Welcoming Vampire a welcome addition to the deck. Since Edgar is making us tokens, casting a massive scary vampire like Vein Ripper still nets us a card drawn thanks to the token entering. Even if we're on pace to cast only a single vampire each turn, the consistency of drawing one more card each turn can keep us on that unrelenting pace. The new High Society Hunter is a great source of ongoing card draw too, and a very strong addition to the deck. A 5/3 flyer that gets bigger as it attacks and keeps your hand full as long as non-token creatures die, and that will be happening a lot. The rest of our vampires should be providing utility. Bloodletter Vaclazots essentially doubling our combat damage, Charismatic Conqueror providing an element of stacks or additional vampire token generation, and Champion of Dusk drawing us a one-time burst of cards. All valuable utility beyond just a body that I see many include in Edgar Markov decks. But we have some additional win cons that are on bodies too, like Malakir Bloodwitch being a bomb of damage on entry to drain opponents equal to the number of vampires you control. Gaining life equal to the amount of life lost this way, not the amount of vampires you control, sets a massive chasm between your life total and your opponent's. Sanctum Seeker is another way to capitalize off of going wide, pinging each opponent whenever your vampires attack, giving your vampires a surefire way to tick down life totals even if they can't connect for damage. But the fact that you gain a life whenever this happens as well can be gaining you steady increments of life while steadily killing your opponents. Now, the real reason we want about 30 vampires in the deck is to ensure we're able to cast 1 to 2 vampires a turn regularly. If 1 in every 3 to 4 cards drawn is a vampire, it'll mean we can meaningfully expand our board without over-committing to it. Board wipes are our biggest enemy here. In order to address both those needs, steadily drawing cards and avoiding board wipes, we want to make some tactical choices for inclusion. One-time bursts of card draw, like on Champion of Dusk and Pact of the Serpent, go a long way even if it's just drawing us 4 or 6 cards at a time. But ongoing card draw is where we need to be focused. Welcoming Vampire and Tokasha's Welcome are both the standards here. Consistent drawing of a single card a turn, even if just 1 card a turn, it's enough to double the overall effectiveness and efficiency of your commander decks. Black Market Connections is another valuable include, as it can help fix your 3-color mana base with treasures, draw you a card, and create a changeling token that is, surprise surprise, a vampire thanks to it having all creature types. None of the options here are ever bad in this deck. Skull Clamp, of course, is a must-have too. It's a way to turn the free vampire tokens Edgar creates into 2 cards each turn, and even when your vampires get too beefy to actually die to just being equipped, we do have plenty of sacrifice outlets to get us the card draw we need. And Vanquisher's Banner is really where we want the top of the curve for our card draw to be, pulling double duty as an anthem for our vampires and drawing us a card whenever we cast a vampire. It's a card like this that gets us into snowball territory fast, as chaining a few vampires back to back can get our board back to intimidating even if we've just lost everything. And this is our number 1 weakness, getting our board reset. It's something we are vulnerable to and something we need to be aware of. So we need to build with that in mind, including gotcha spells to dodge these effects. Clever Concealment is my first go-to here, with the fact that it can be cast for free with Convoke being its biggest advantage. Even if it only costs you 1 or 2 mana, being able to phase out not just your creatures but any permanents is a big win. If your opponent fires off a farewell, you'll be prepared. The new Dawn's Truce is my next include, as being cast without gifting a card to an opponent can negate targeted removal, but giving all permanents you control indestructible for the cost of giving away a card is too good to pass up, for just 2 mana especially. This is a better heroic intervention, folks, and that's played in every green deck. Now, I also like the inclusion of Flawless Maneuver here. Even if we don't have Edgar on the battlefield often for the free cast ability, paying 3 mana to dodge a board wipe is still very good return, and is absolutely worthwhile when you have half a dozen vampires in play. And the last gotcha I'd make sure to include is Akroma's Will. Another one that can be even better with our commander in play more often, but still versatile enough to be cast offensively or defensively. For 4 mana, it can help us Alpha Strike when going wide, giving our vampires flying, vigilance, and double strike, or choosing to give our vampires lifelink, indestructible, and protection from all colors. Either mode is great, but being able to negate a board wipe is too good to pass up. On that note, we do want a few board wipes of our own. We won't go overboard because we are a creature deck, but being able to deal with someone even more troubling than ourselves is just a necessity sometimes. So I've included board wipes like Toxic Deluge, which we may be able to cast to wipe away small creatures and leave ours standing, or allow us to rebuild faster than any opponents might. Along with Blasphemous Act, being able to cast this for a single mana, hold priority, then cast one of our own gotcha spells is a pro move that can and will win you the game once in a while. And I've included the new Blasphemous Edict. For those moments where you absolutely need everything in the world gone, you can do it for a single mana, then still cast a vampire or 2 afterwards. We may even go wide enough that, after sacrificing 13 creatures, we still have some left in play. 2 of our biggest finishers from a combat standpoint are going to care about our vampires, Shared Animosity and the new Banner of Kinship. Both of these can get our vampires ridiculously large, and dropping them just as we go for a big swing is the best way to throw off combat math for your opponents. This is a deck that swings and swings for the fences. As often as I say combat should be your second or third path to success, in a build like this is a brew that puts combat first. And that's all you really need to know about Edgar Markov. Oh, except I didn't mention the combo. The infinite combo that acts as a backup line to your deck, the Blood Bond combo. The combo of Exquisite Blood and Sanguine Bond is a 2-card mono-black enchantment-based combo that turns any loss of life for your opponents into you draining each opponent dry. See, Exquisite Blood says that whenever an opponent loses life, you gain that much life, and Sanguine Bond says that whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life, resulting in an infinite loop of taking out each opponent one trigger at a time. It's a classic that's been around for a while and is very on theme with a vampire deck. But the combo recently has gotten much better with some added redundancy. See, with the release of Vito Thorn of the Dusk Rose, we got some redundancy for Sanguine Bond, as Vito has the same line of text: whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life, on a vampire body to boot with an activated ability that gives all creatures you control lifelink until the end of your turn too. But with Magic Foundations, we have the new Bloodthirsty Conqueror. Much needed redundancy for the long, unique Exquisite Blood part of the combo, and on a big flying vampire as well. Now we have redundancy for both pieces, while also staying on theme and in creature type too. I've added in the other much needed piece for any combo, tutors. And I've done this in the form of Vampiric Tutor, on theme, and Demonic Tutor, to assist us in finding the other half of our missing pieces. This gives us up to 4 options for either half of our combo, resulting in some good odds that we can assemble this and end the game if we can't cinch it via combat damage. This is definitely not a budget deck and is definitely not a CEDH deck, but it is one of the highest power, most consistent decks that you can make that maximizes your power level. I've ensured my list, linked below, has the best mana base 2 within reason, as I've not included true dual lands in the deck. Honestly, I feel they're super overrated and overpriced in Commander. But what I have included is some of the best 2-color producing lands we can, like Shocks, Battle Lands, and the new Blazemire Verge. I've also included the best lands that make all of our colors, like Saval Triumph, Secluded Courtyard, and Unclaimed Territory. I've included Cabal Coffers and Urborg, another classic pairing suitable for any black deck that ideally wants to ramp any way it can, including Phyrexian Tower so you can sacrifice a vampire token to get a boost of your mana production, and the white and black channel lands for some added utility. If you ever start flooding out, or if you've got so many lands in hand you'll never need to play them, these make great spells that are uncounterable. And perhaps the best new addition to the mana base, from Bloomburrow, 3 Tree City. This is a Nykthos Shrine to Nyx for any typal deck, in a brew that can go as wide as this one, a way for us to squeeze a mana out of every single creature we control. This does ensure that it is not a cheap deck, but it doesn't entirely break the bank. Great for those of you that love vampires and want to push your power level higher. Let me know what you would include in an Edgar Markov list in the comments. Be sure to share your deck list links too, I look at all of them. And if you ever want to check out my list, head over to my sponsor, MOXFIELD. MOXFIELD is the best deck building platform in the world and makes it easy to see all of my brews all year long, all the time. With search versioning tools to select the cheapest or most expensive versions of each card, it's easy to brew your list to your budget preference. Be sure to follow my profile while you're there. And if you're looking to pick up any cards, cheap or expensive, head over to my sponsor, Card Trader. Use my promo code right now for 5% off your order of any cards from any TCG. Their massive global marketplace makes it easy to find the cards you're looking for, in the treatments you're looking for, in the languages you're looking for, all hassle-free. Lastly, if you're looking to sell your cards, head to Card Conduit, the easiest way to sell your cards from Magic, Pokemon, or any other game. You can ship them unsorted to Card Conduit and they'll send you a check. Easy as that. It's the quickest way to sell extra copies or just old stuff you have sitting around. Try them out now. And if you want to see any of my cool brews, check out these other videos on the channel. If you're a fan and you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, do it now. But, as always folks, good luck and have fun.